Sometimes it gets ruined.
All right.
Anybody need a makeup comb?
Yeah.
He's very nice.
I was,
Makeup?
well, to tell you the truth, you're not even in the screen, so I move it later. I'll try and move it later. I had a shotgun microphone, but I was over interviewing an older couple, and I think I left it in their windowsill, so I have to go and get us to the...
Okay, housekeeping, everyone.
That's right.
Just bathrooms are down the hall here for the women, and the men's bathroom is down toward the elevators and down that corridor. Really there too.
The men's room is right next to the women's.
Oh, is it? I didn't really pay attention to where the men was like, okay. All right, toward the chapel is probably the easiest. Okay. All right, is there anything else that we need? Yeah, I hope everybody has something for refreshment here. Okay? Good. Thank you.
I am Brian McCaffrey. I'm the chair of the Northeast Forum on Spirituality and Aging, and know most of you, but it's wonderful that I have a new face too, and a face that hasn't been here for a long time, and another one.
An old face.
An old face. We got an old face over here. We usually start with kind of a devotion, and then we have been moving to having a couple presenters sharing kind of stories of what's going on with aging and spirituality. We're really in a place where the numbers have been such that we're trying to figure out how we're going to carry on and in the Rochester area. And this is one of our higher number gatherings, so we'd love some input as to whether or not you'd like to keep this going. We are planning a big program in January with Barbara Bruce. So partly want to go around, one of the things that we'd like to do is go around and get introduced, but I wanted to share, this last Sunday was Christ the King Sunday in our church calendar. And the wonder of this Sunday is, yesterday, is that it's kind of the New Year's Eve of the church. The whole year has come to a culmination, all the different pieces of the seasons, the kind of longing of Advent and God's response with Christmas, the Epiphany being that kind of aha experience of Jesus' teaching and our getting it once in a while, catching a glimpse. This is the movement, I believe, of life. Then we come to Lent, which I kind of think of as midlife crisis. Remember that thou art dust, and to dust thou shalt return. And we face our mortality, and it changes us. It really changes our perspective, and we realize that, is this all there is? Or is there this sense of, is this all that I can be? And East Holy Week makes us appreciate really that God comes and offers us all this wonderful stuff, and we say no. And we say no, and the crucifixion occurs. We're part of the crowd. Crucify him. Crucify him. But God doesn't take no for an answer. Thanks be to God. A resurrection comes along, and we got to take God seriously. We got to take this spirit and say, wait a minute, there's more here than we thought or we understood. And the rest of it is Pentecost, the gift of the Spirit that's been given to us, not only as individuals, but as individuals who are then called together to be the body of Christ in this world, and to be salt and leaven and ambassadors for Christ, and all sorts of purpose. And that's my understanding, that it takes this lifetime, it takes this seasons of our life to go through all these stages to appreciate really what's been given to us. And that we need to help people in the second half of life to say, oh, the Spirit's been given to me. How do I develop this inner life? How do I get this closer walk with God? How do I become exactly who I've been created to be? And not end up looking like a religious fanatic, because none of us want to do that. Or I should say, most of us don't want to do that. How do we end up doing it in such a way that we become the elders that we maybe had in our minds, that we've experienced, that we can lift up? What can we learn from them? So the Christ the King image to me is that Jesus steps down from the throne and comes and dwells among us in such a way that he's encouraging and lifting and supporting us in this life. And that what I want us to do is to be the people who combat the ageism that is out there, that says that aging is a problem, is something, a disease that needs a cure, is something to be avoided at all costs. And instead recognize it as this deepening. We talk about church growth. A lot of times our churches are aging, and we talk about church growth, and what that means is we're looking for young people. And I say, well, church growth can also mean deepening, growing people who are more connected with God. Come on in and join us.
Great morning. How's everyone?
Great morning, good morning. Good morning. So, with that, let's have a prayer. Lord God, you are the King. And we have been called, each and every one of us. There's a priesthood of all believers to live our lives in ways that deepen us. Help us to grow into your image and grow into your will, and just to become the people that are bringing the good news into the world. Help us to bring that good news to elders, and help the elders to be exactly what the world needs right now. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Please go around and introduce yourself, and if you have been to NEFOSA NEFOSA is an abbreviation for the Northeast Forum on Spirituality and Aging, and just what kind of work you may be doing with people in the second half of life. Trying to stop saying older and elder, because I love those terms, but a lot of people don't. So that I'm saying people in the second half of life.
I'm Patty Anacurta. I work with John Walker with Arundecoit Senior Ministries, and Arundecoit Senior Ministries is part of the Blessed Cattery Parish here in Arundecoit. And what we do is try to keep all of our mature people connected to the parish and our community through the various ministries that we have.
And I gotta say, I really have appreciated the fact that you kind of, in Donna, saw a need and gathered people together and made it happen. I think that's one of the big gifts. I'm gonna go back and move the camera.
I forget.
Just keep going.
St. Anne's community and your own ministry. I think that's a big one.
And whose ministry?
Your own ministry.
Community service?
No, accordion.
Oh,
She plays the accordion.
Aha!
She plays the accordion for who? Mostly.
basically, yeah, for seniors.
Right. I love her. Yeah. Business cards, Pat. Show them the business cards.
Yes.
And I am Barbara Bruce. I am a United Methodist, probably the token Methodist here. But I have been doing a lot of work for the Alzheimer's Association. But I also teach at Lifespan in their gerontology certificate program. And I work for Oasis. I teach there, and I have taught at most of the legacies, with yours being the exception. So we'll see if we can. But anyway, I do what I can. This is my passion. This is where I'm going with my life.
And you are the regional representative, aren't you not?
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. The Northeast Regional Representative for Older Adult Ministries of the United Methodist Church. And that and 350 will get me a cup of Starbucks.
I'm Kathy Marana. I'm the NAFOSA assistant. I also do a lot of programs in nursing homes with music and kind of memory
It's critical. Music is critical.
keys.
Great morning, my name is Arlene Brown, and I am a member of Morning Star Missionary Baptist Church. We do help with the seniors at the Hudson Ridge Towers. Also, I am a part of the Legacy Senior Living Program, where I am a companion for one of the seniors in our community.
I'm Sharon Lewis. I am at present a living person who is finding her way for my second half of life. And I was involved with the gerontology program at Lifespan and completed that certificate and heard your presentation there. And I'm in the Upstate Saging Guild with Magazine right now. I'm an intern this year with Peg Morris as being my mentor. She said to say hello, but she couldn't come today. So I had come to a NAFOSA meeting, I think 2 years ago. And just, the spiritual part of the work is so very important. I felt I wanted to reconnect. And so I'm on my journey this year, finding my way. And I volunteer as an ombudsperson at the Episcopal Home, where I've been for 2 years. My name is Maxine Carey, and I'm excuse me. I am a Toastmaster, and she's a Toastmaster, so therefore I have to be careful of saying no ums and ahs. So that's what distracted me, and that's why I'm smiling. But it's a beautiful thing because I do good unless I see somebody. Again, my name is Maxine Carey. I am a companion for AmeriCorps, and it's called Legacy AmeriCorps. And I have to say that it has no connection with Legacy where I live. It's Legacy because it deals with seniors. And I am a member of Morning Star Missionary Baptist Church. I am the senior pastor over the senior population. And as the senior population, it's not just for Morning Star, but Morning Star has an outreach ministry that goes into the nursing homes, rehabs, and hospitals for faith-based people who are no longer in their congregation, but they're in the other places, and they're not getting continued follow-up because they're not paying money to the congregation. So when I go see one, I end up, everybody comes around and they want one of me too. So we're working on putting together some young people, or young people to interact with the older people, to get someone to go in and do follow-up when they go to nursing home, hospitals, and rehab. And the other things I can't remember right now because I didn't write it down.
And you look great
In purple.
Well,
I know,
thank
yeah.
you.
She does. That's her color. Right?
Thank you. Wow.
Hi, everyone. I'm Donna Walker, and as Pat indicated, we're here with Arundequoit Senior Ministry, which is part of Blessed Kettering Parish, which is the consolidated parish of Catholic parish in Arundequoit. And this ministry also collaborates with St. Anne's community, and therefore our presence here today. The ministry work that we do is, as Pat indicated, keeping our seniors connected. And two areas that are similar to what Maxine is talking about is we do work where we do provide, or we give communion services at Arundequoit senior living facilities. And we have a team of 30 people who are trained, who go out and on a weekly basis be community to the residents. And of course, all are welcome. It is a Catholic communion service, but it reaches to anyone who's interested. And the other piece that is very important to us is staying connected to our homebound, which is a huge undertaking. We are the largest parish in the Diocese of Rochester. And so the need, our senior population in Arundequoit is probably at 20–25%. And so the need for staying connected with seniors is huge, and the motivation there is to provide that connection to people who have given years to being active members of our community, attending church, donating, giving oodles of time to bingos and fundraisers and all kinds of things, and it's our turn to make sure that we're Christ to each other, and so that we are working with volunteers who we train and invite to visit with our homebound on a weekly basis. And of course, it's basically seniors who are being visitors to seniors. But all are welcome. We'll gladly accept young people in that ministry. So welcome to you all here, and I hope we have a good meeting today.
I'm Carol Santos. I came here with a couple of hats. My initial introduction was through Rosemary Zuck, who's involved with staging and involved with NFOSA. She brought the Threshold Choir to sing us several months ago, a couple of our music presentations. We are a very small women's choir, which is not particularly Christian. It's more spiritual, and it's meant to bring music ministry to the bedside of those in the end stages of their lives. So it's primarily hospice ministry, but it can and has been long-term care as well, because it's not as easy to interject with people at the end stages. It's just hard to find that right moment when they'll receive music, when it's not, when you can get a group together, when you can get there, and it's also appropriate. So we find that the long-term care sometimes is an application that makes sense. So I'd say we're probably 6 to 8 people, and at any time 2 people may respond to a call that says someone needs or loves music, and we'd love to have some music at the bedside. So we will sing, Christian music. It's not particularly Christian music that comes out of this program, but obviously everybody loves all the old favorites, so we do as much of that as we can and are asked to. But my other hat, and why St. Anne's is particularly in my heart, is because I am also an ombudsman here. I have 3 floors that I cover, and find that there's a lot of crossover in what these groups do. You can't spend 5 minutes talking to a person in long-term care that you don't get to some place where their heart is troubled or where they need a laugh. And one of the goals I usually have with people is, in our conversations, is to try to get them to smile, because sometimes that part of their soul doesn't get reached for a very long time.
Tell me the name of your group again.
Threshold Choir,
Where do you
Rochester.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Where do you operate out of?
Well, right now we've been rehearsing at the Friendly Home, but it's because we have a member who whose mother is a resident there. So we sing for her, and then we gather a group as they want to come. And when the staff knows we're there, they'll ask us to come and visit someone who's appropriate in hospice ministry. But we do have a mailing address, which I could respond to anybody who asks, and my address is on here. And we try to get that out, because there are times when people just want music, and that we do.
Yeah.
Do you have cards?
I didn't bring them. I didn't bring that hat with me. I brought my ombudsman hat, so
Okay.
I do have some, but I don't have them with me, yeah.
Bring them next.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Sure.
January.
And I'll try to see if some of the other folks can come as well. Again, I know Rosemary tries to get to this meeting, but I know she's been busy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ask Brian, should I just introduce myself and go into what I'm supposed to do?
Exactly.
Okay,
Perfect.
very good. You timed it right. You got in the right seat. Well, first of all, I'd like to tell you that I appreciate the invitation to be with you. And I've appreciated Brian in the past. I've been connected with HOSA, about a year and a half, I think, possibly, but not one of the most attending members. So they ask the Lord's forgiveness for that and my calendar. Also, something that Brian said in his beautiful message today, that Christ the King, which is part of your Kettering Tekawitha, he came and dwelt among us. Well, he couldn't have done that without a woman. And it's very, very interesting to say that Brian and I are very outnumbered by the women here present today. And I think it's a key in ministry and reaching out. See, if it was dependent on a man to get God to come here, it might not have been as successful. Since a woman did it, it worked well. I'm Paul Ryan, and my roots and background are Roman Catholic. My life experience leads to what I'm doing today, so I share that with you. After 8th grade at St. Rita's School in Webster, which is not far from here, and to show you how old I am, I was the first student enrolled in that school. Went on to St. Andrew's Seminary, to Beckett Hall, to St. Bernard's, ordained a priest in '73, and worked in ministry throughout the world. I still minister, but I worked in the active institutional church ministry, parish work, in education, teaching at the college level, and things I'm particularly thankful to God for. I was led to work with the developmentally disabled with the Office of Mental Retardation, Developmental Disabilities, State of New York, and my goal was to close institutions, and we made that goal. Part of the groups that developed the concept of group homes. And I'm always glowing when I talk about that, because I saw the tragedy of institutions, all kinds of institutions, and what can be done if done properly with the group homes. From there, went to Latin America and worked in the missions in Mexico and Brazil. Studied, and that was with basically indigenous people, indigenous tribes in Latin America. Studied liberation theology in Brazil. Came back to the United States, and when I was in Latin America, adopted a son. So I'm a grandfather, was a single parent, so can relate somewhat. You can never know what it's like as a man to be a single mother, but somewhat when you're a single father, and going through that kind of stuff. Came back to the United States and did one of those cluster communities, like Erie, Tekawitha, responsible all the parishes along Cayuga Lake in southern Cayuga County. Did that work and concluded active ministry in the role as a pastor, St. Elizabeth Ann Seton in Hamlin, New York. We were fondly called by the diocese Corpus Christi West. Has a lot of history. Strong words, yeah. I retired at the advice of my doctors in 2004 from institutional ministry, but we're all called to ministry. I believe theologically in the faith that I come from, my roots in that faith, that there really are two sacraments. The baptism, in which we all share the priesthood of Jesus Christ, and the Eucharist, in which we share a meal and gather together in community. The other ones are nice, but they're add-ons, in my view. Therefore, all of us sit here today around the table, we've heard from each of you the ministry, the priesthood that you're all carrying on. After retirement, I decided I'd spent a lot of my life in advocacy for developmentally disabled, for indigenous people. And I thought, gee whiz, this could be a win-win if I go for the elderly, because I'm getting there. I've got there now, see. Social Security comes in January. So I got to the full senior level. And I hope I have many, many, many years. I don't see it as a terrible time of life. I think it hopefully will be my most creative time in life. Then I was blessed in 2006 with a wonderful wife, Bridget, who certainly energizes me and keeps me going. Sometimes I kind of blush that I was a grandfather before I got married. But that was just the advent of life, that we're not. So in that advocacy, I got involved with GRAPE here in Rochester. If you haven't heard of it, connect to it or hear about it. The Greater Rochester Area Partnership, which is so good, with the elderly. And you got to use elderly, Brian, because it's an E in the GRAPE word. You're stuck with it there. And I like the word elder as well. That, certainly in the Bible, the elders weren't old people. But today, it's kind of attached to old people. So doing that, I was asked by a company if I would help them with their work with senior citizens. I did that, and apparently did a good job, because I got asked by another company if I would work with them. They owned at that time 270 communities for seniors, campuses for seniors around the country. And if you're going to have that many, even at one, like St. Anne's, you're going to have some problems. Well, you can picture if you got 270 of them. So I was a sort of member of the volunteer or paid fire department, go out and put out the fires, issues and problems. And over those years, the legacy senior living here in Rochester, the legacy independent senior living, is owned by a family, which, unlike a corporation. And 3 years in a row, the owner contacted me and said, we'd like you to work with us. And I gave it some thought, but did say no. But the third time was a charm, and I got involved. And through that, one of our vice presidents is Don Riley. I don't know if any of you know of Don, okay? He was supervisor in town of Greece, and as well as Rochester Transit Authority, and now he's with the Legacy and Mark IV Enterprises. We went to school, we were in the seminary together, so we never tell those stories on each other though. And we went to college together at St. John Fisher, and worked together on, hey, let's have a conference on spirituality. And I thought it was a successful event that we held. I think it brought a number of fruits, and again, we can't tell other senior living communities what they have to do, but at least within our own communities, we now have a chaplain who lives right on campus at each of our communities, except for two, and we're working on that. Who we're going to get, and we make it extremely possible for them to do that job. And we're certainly very open, and it certainly brings a lot to our people. Also, all of our community activity directors, or we're now calling life enrichment directors, are working at blending in, raising up the needs of the spirituality aspect. So we still have bingo, which is kind of like a sacrament for a lot of people. And there's still, the crochet and the knitting and so on. But within that is offered opportunities for prayer, and then those other experiences, the Lenten retreat experiences, prayer days, certainly celebrations in whatever faith. If you go into our chapel, it would be as bare of religious symbolism as this room is. That whatever faith is celebrating brings what we either have in storage or brings what they need for the celebration. So anyone at any time of day can enter the chapel and pray or think or meditate in what they want to do. What I especially wanted for those who may not know, but you're a very educated group, you probably know this before I say it, that we're a unique entity in senior living, in that we're independent senior living. But I'd like to say that in the United States, due to the way the laws are, independent senior living in a community is really assisted. Assisted living is really nursing homes. Nursing homes are really hospitals without operating rooms. And if you look at the reality of what you see there, that's, and doctors agree with me, and the directors of institutions say, you know, that really is the way it is. However, independent for us means that you can live in our communities, either our villas or apartments, and you can live there independently as you would in your own home. If you've chosen to stay at home and bring in services, you can obviously do the same thing in our community. However, we aren't an official part of that, nor can any independent living be an official part of that. But a person could really stay in independent living right through hospice. Obviously, you can have hospice in your own home. You can stay directly through that and still be as independent as you can be. One of the new catch phrases, and they change all the time, you know, age in place. Well, I'd like to change it. Age in place seems to me that I would treat an elder, a senior, as a plant. You put you in the corner and you can age there, but you're going to age in place. I like to use the term age your way. I want to stay home, or I want to be in community. And I think that there is a wonderful niche for independent senior living communities: socialization and nutrition. Those are the key ingredients to having a good, long senior life. And the sooner we focus on it as we're aging, the better. If there's any problem that we have in independent senior living, is that people choosing to make the decision. Because every place that seniors live in our culture, for the time being, is seen as a nursing home, whether it is or not. You know, if the seniors happen to live, that's the old people's home, or that's the nursing home, or that's where you go when you can't take care of yourself. And that, trying to get beyond that, again, that's treating seniors as children. We're going to have to take care of you now, because you really aren't up to making your own decisions and taking care of yourself. That may occur in some cases, but I think those cases, my experience, is very, very few. But we plop it onto everybody. And I think that can be not only dangerous, but unjust. It's important to look at justice in terms of our relationship with those more mature than ourselves. And basically, there are so many extra things that living in a community can do for you. The religious nature, the choir groups, you know, you got the group right over there. You don't have to get in the car and drive someplace. There's many benefits, but the two key, I think, for making that choice, say at my age even, would be, do I want to make sure, if I were alone, if we were not a couple, if I were alone, I would not practice good nutrition. And I certainly wouldn't have the socialization that I really needed. That's what would make it worthwhile for me to do it. And I think that one way that we can help, we do it in our communities, and we're certainly for-profit, but not-for-profit also have independent senior living. I would say that if you're dealing with seniors, they should be able to be in an independent senior community, and they should not pay any more than from $1,500 to $2,300 a month. Now, that still goes beyond some people, and therefore that's when local communities, church organizations, congregations, parishes can get together and make sure that there is a community, that there are activities and growth and spirituality taking place within that, for those who choose it, or who will choose it because it's now there, it's now available. People don't even think of choosing things that aren't available to them. They might hope for it, but they don't usually make that known, either to family or even oftentimes to other seniors. And there are certainly many programs out there that can help people, major programs if someone was a veteran, to enable them to live in a community. And that's where I've come from, that's what we are doing. And I've been doing it with the Legacy now for just over 2 years. And I can see the growth and the spirituality and the development of enabling, not only among my staff, but among the residents. Makes for a community that if you come out, if you ever come to visit, you can feel it in the building. When you meet the people, you know that folks are happy, that there's a warmth among staff as well among the residents who live there. And you want a nice place to live, because that certainly enables you to focus on those personal and social dimensions of spirituality, which are so important. I'd like to go into something else today, but before we do it, I've done the talking. I'd like to get some questions from you folks and then go on to something that just became talkable about on Friday. So that's why we haven't got it. Okay. It's not in the agenda.
How many legacies are there?
There are 7, and there's going to be 8. We're planning one very near here in Irondequoit, and Irondequoit has an extremely high senior population, and I think it's quite over 25%. Huge. I think it's the largest concentration of seniors in Monroe County, and also percent as well as numbers. You have a full-time ministry there, you really do.
Cranberry Legacy is already here, right?
Yes, it is. And the one that we have the property for, and once we get through the hurdles, there's a hurdle when you try to build anything these days, will be on Titus Avenue, fairly near Culver Road.
When you refer to the people, when you refer to individuals going in and the way they treat the seniors, and you talked about how they treat them like children, that's what I see a lot of. And to me, that's like disrespect. Because if in our, so I'm thinking, when you said how they treat them like children, can we say just that they disrespect them? Even though they're trained to do the things they do, the way they do it. On the outside, if they were talking to an adult, they'll talk to an adult a certain way. But in the nursing homes or when they're in hospitals and different things, they talk to them, to me, like children. To me, that's disrespect. So would that be this, can I use that word? Is disrespectful?
Yeah, or failure to see their potential, or where they're really at. I think maybe all of us around this table, we're old enough, we've all been in the hospital. You know, and even though you might get good care in that, you aren't necessarily treated as who you are. the patient is treated differently than the visitor. And they may be the same age, whatever else.
Because I see, what I see is, when the people come in, they tell them, what do you prefer to be called? They'll say Mrs. or they'll tell them what they prefer. Then when they get in there, they call them by their first name. So if a person is not used to you calling them by their first name, and you're talking to them, you're not really communicating with them because you're not talking to them like they asked you to. So to me, I use the word disrespect, but I like what you said about failure to see their potential. So to me, that word would still, failure to see their potential would still be the same way of saying they're not respecting them.
Right.
Okay.
And failure to recognize them as who they really are.
Okay, thank you.
A question of observation that from your viewpoint, you mentioned having worked with developmentally different individuals in the group homes.
Certainly
Do
teaches
you-
your patience.
Do you feel that there will be a time when we have more small group home situations for people who are in their older years? Because I've always wondered, why is that concept not moving over, and why doesn't it work?
I think a part of it could be because most group homes are either charitably funded or state funded. That would be, and we certainly don't want the state to run our senior living. And when they do get involved, it's just, there's a place for state and rules, regulations, but boy, it also comes along with hurdles. It's always like, be aware of it. But right now, they are starting here in Rochester through the St. John's community, building the nursing homes that are really modeled after a group home.
And they are very expensive because of the staff that we need to work at those. But I'm more thinking, baby boomers like some of us, we might just take it on ourselves to say 4 or 5 of us are going to live together.
Oh, that happens.
And that movement of, saying, this
There
makes sense.
is such a movement.
Right, and it just seems like.
Well, I
that
think
would
there's
be
certainly
more
room for that.
supported.
And that I often suggested, like, years ago when I was young in the ministry, they were talking about places for the retired priests to go and live, and they never followed through on it. In the Rochester area, retired priests go with either the Sisters of St. Joseph or the Sisters of Mercy, or on their own. You have to go those directions. But there were groups of the guys, and it never went anywhere, but it would have been a great idea if you need someone to make sure of the nourishment, well, you can hire someone,
Right,
but
group
with
families.
5 to 10 of you funding it, it's...
So what I hear you saying is you want to try to avoid all the state regulations, because then it becomes a massive, headache.
And it's amazing, like, for instance, if someone should fall in our community, if you're a visitor, you can help them up. We can't.
Right.
And we're very strict with it because we don't want to get into, it's not like, boy, without the state we can do whatever we want. Absolutely not, because our people would leave. But we aren't shackled with all sorts of, and then you're tied up in legislation or legalities, all sorts of things.
Yeah, the institutional model for nursing for long-term care was modeled after a hospital, and it was based around the staffing needs. And the person who was most important got lost in that equation. And so all your long-term care facilities now are moving towards a better model within a facility that was not created for that. So you'll see it working better in some places than others. St. Anne's is working towards it. They're not there by any measure, and it's very frustrating because people who do have a choice of sitting in a wheelchair in their room or at a table all day long, which is what none of us do in our own homes, and that's really frustrating. So you see it, Friendly Home is amazingly changed, with a large living area. Baptist Home has done that. St. John's has been able to remodel some of their areas. And this whole idea of person-centered, they're pushing that the person who's the most important that matters is that one not your director, not anything else, but the person who's actually paying
The
the
bill.
bill. And, you know, is the person hired to take care of you, and it's a whole change of thinking. It's not,
Saw the same thing with birth,
yes, of course.
the birthing centers now, and some are excellent in Rochester, and some still need to improve their standard. I actually have cousins of mine are expecting, and they went around and investigated them all before they chose where their baby would be born, because from what they saw in the various places. And you actually, we've certainly seen in the new construction at any of the hospitals, how much more they're striving to get to that point that it's patient-centered, the patient is the one paying the bill. 5, only got 5 minutes. Okay, want to turn down the camera?
Oh,